Well, hello everyone. Thank you for joining me today. I'm Judy Piper. I'm one of the engineering leads at cLabs and also the host for this Celo Tech Talk series. Celo is a mobile-first full-stack blockchain platform with a mission to build a financial system that creates conditions of prosperity for everyone. We recognize this is an ambitious mission, and we are building Celo with our community and Celo end users. For this reason, we studied the Celo Tech Talk series to share and spread Celo technology knowledge with the growing Celo community. For today's talk, I've invited Marek Kolszewski and Jarrell James to talk about Celo technology and Make It Mobile Hackathon, which is a part of the Gitcoin project. Welcome, Marek and Jarrell. Before we get started, I would like to ask each of you to introduce yourself. Should we start with you, Marek?
Sure. Hello, everyone. It's really wonderful to be here. As Judy mentioned, my name is Marek Kolszewski. I'm one of the founders and CTO of cLabs, one of the companies I'm contributing to and building on top of the Celo platform. Let's see where to begin. I have Polish parents, but I was born in Singapore, where I grew up and spent kind of my early years. I then went to the University of Toronto to study computer science in Canada, after which I went to MIT for my PhD, also in computer science. While there, I was working on an area of research that we helped create called deterministic multi-threading, which just coincidentally became very relevant towards scaling blockchain systems. While there, I think I spent some time at Microsoft Research, at Google, and then finally ended up after MIT starting a startup, which did well. It got acquired a few years later. And then around 4 years ago, I teamed up with one of my co-founders from that earlier startup and a MIT professor to start cLabs. And the rest, I guess, is history.
That's right. And you forgot to mention about your gig as a model.
Yeah, that is not something I mentioned.
We have actually polls going about Marek, and there's two lies and two truths and one lie. Please do take a poll, and we would review the answer at the end of the session. All right, Jarrell, next to you.
Yeah, hi. I'm Jarrell James. I have. Let me see, just to give an overview. Marek's is really hard to follow. I am originally from Ethiopia. I have grown up a lot of my life in Northern California, where I was exposed to tech as you do, just kind of ditching high school and going down to San Francisco from my town in Lake Tahoe. And so I would regularly go after school down to SF and kind of just started getting involved in these like projects with people who were, they didn't even know if I was or wasn't from SF. They didn't care. We would just meet in parks, and that led me into realizing I wanted to go to school for computer science and in computer engineering. So I went to Cal Poly at first, and then I was kind of disillusioned with the whole coastal California surfer vibe school. It was not as much engineering as was partying, and I was like, maybe I'll go do something else after this. And so I ended up going to Westminster as well after that, and got more involved in computer science, but also really specifically involved in philosophy, and started to get involved in the blockchain space around 2014 because actually my adopted father is an economist, and we got into a bunch of discussions / arguments about like the economics of Bitcoin, and I was coming at it from a philosophy perspective, and that led me to kind of get into that headspace of like, well, I'm sure my dad is wrong about this. So I think that was actually probably the best decision I ever made, was to stick to my guns on this. And after that, that led to all sorts of stuff. But notably, I worked on a number of projects in the space. Most recent one you probably heard about would be TBTC, which is a one-to-one peg between Bitcoin to Ethereum using SPV proofs. And then I also, maybe some of you like VR, I also helped found a virtual reality company that's now backed by Oculus that focuses actually very relevantly. We were doing this a few years ago, but we made a virtual lab where you could work on design proteins and vaccines with labs all over the world. And so now actually, since coronavirus is happening, it's taken off, and it's used by all of like the major labs to collaborate on the Moderna and Pfizer vaccine, since they outsourced a lot of their work to smaller breast cancer labs and other types of labs who've been focused on other illnesses and ailments. So that was a really cool thing to see happen, and it kind of gives me more belief in Celo. Is like, you know, just if you get in there and you put a lot of work into something that you know is a good idea and eventually it will be useful, people will latch onto it, and you never know, there might just be a global situation that calls for that technology to be needed. And so it's part of the reason why I'm here, and I really excited about kind of this idea of mobile first approach, because I think that's what my community in Ethiopia was going to identify with, and that's how I can tell them about crypto.
And there's also 2 truths and 1 lie about Jarrell. So do take a poll. And I just found out from you just now that you actually went to Westminster College. I went to Westminster College for a year.
Oh, wow. Judy,
Yeah.
are we like alumni friends?
Oh, man.
This is so cool. I didn't know there was
are.
anyone else. For context, people, this is a school that has maybe 3,000 people. It's very small.
Like Westminster College. I went there.
Yeah, this is awesome.
Yeah.
Should I tell people my 2 truths and a lie afterwards or right now?
Yeah, after.
Okay.
So there are folks that are still joining. So let's get started. We have some questions. Well, I have some questions that I prepared to ask you a question, and you can take a turn to whoever into answering the question. That would be great. So maybe we can start with the basic. So can you give an intro to Making Mobile Hackathon, and why is it the mobile first approach important to you and also Celo? Maybe this could be Jarrell, you could take that.
Yeah. So I think just to give a quick overview on the hackathon, I mean, this is essentially, if you've been involved in an ETH hackathon or any EVM chain type hackathon, you'd be just as right as home here with what we're doing. And the reason we're calling it Make It Mobile, and the reason we're highlighting the mobile capabilities of Celo itself as a network, is because it's kind of like really obvious right now in the space with how high of a value ETH is currently at, to see how this technology that was given to us as this idea that we would bank the unbanked, it would be available to everyone, it would be for everyone, is actually turning out to be pretty unachievable and unreachable for a lot of people. Even Western established artists are going online and saying like, well, if I wanted to mint an NFT, it has to be like $600. So the point of what we're trying to do with Make It Mobile and with like the mobile first approach of Celo is really around saying like, we were told and we promised and we believed in this dream, this idea of bringing the tools and the freedom of crypto to everyone. And so we need to really take a step back and ask ourselves, who is everybody? And the answer is really going to be everybody who's on a cell phone. Those are the actual people. There's a direct correlation, I think, from people who have cell phones only and who are also unbanked and also have no ID. So we decided to tackle a lot of those problems all at the same time, using cell phone numbers to be mapped to Celo addresses, and that represents like enough of an ID for them to have a bank account and create savings and create value for themselves. So the hackathon itself is really just a call to action for all these builders and anyone out there who wants to take up this mantle and say, hey, I think that I'm from like a Latin American community and I understand Tonda loan clubs, and I think I could actually make a mobile first Tonda loan club. And that's probably the way that like my abuelita would understand how to use crypto. And so like those types of solutions aren't going to always come from some established Silicon Valley startup or some established group of hackers in, you know, the Western world. They're going to come from people who live the monetary reality on the ground in Latin America, Asia, Africa, like all sorts of areas, and even places around the US and Europe that are just like disenfranchised minority communities as well. They have ways of interacting with DeFi that the space of Ethereum probably hasn't really touched upon yet. And I think that's something that I'm hoping to see out of this hackathon is all of these people coming together, making teams, making projects, and learning from each other, learning like, oh wait, that actually is a really cool use for a no-loss lottery deposit. Like that is a really cool use for our version of Uniswap, which is called UBSwap, or our version of Aave, which is called Moolah. I want to show people through this hackathon, like there's already existent DeFi. We just want you to come in and take it to the next level, or bring your own intricacies and your own uniqueness to this hackathon and say, oh, okay, Celo's made it really easy for me to make a mobile app that is also exactly designed to the way that like I would want to see people interact with my product. And I think it's really important for everyone to kind of come around from the Ethereum space and recognize that your development on Ethereum doesn't have to stop. You could just redeploy to Celo and you can maintain both the Ethereum chain and the Celo chain, and in a few months, you'll probably be able to bridge them pretty easily as well. So I think to give you an example of somebody who just had an idea and then less than a year ago, it was just an idea really, was Impact Market and their universal basic income program. And so what this is doing is it's taking a pool of donations from people all over the world and raised about, I believe, $454,000 at this point. And then through a programmatic distribution, distributing about an average of 77 cents in CUSD stablecoin to recipients all around the world. And this is something that's actually very, very successful at this point, with 11,000 people onboarded into this universal basic income program. And that means that the impact market people have now beaten the UN when at their own game, which is they had tried to do the universal basic income through technology a number of times. And this is just incredible, because the reason that they were able to do this is the fact that the market was always waiting for crypto. It was always waiting for these workarounds to their own deflationary assets. They just needed it to happen on a mobile medium. And if you really look at the way that Ethereum is building out, I mean, I think we might be looking at ETH 5.0 before we see any like real mobile like client like action coming from that team or that crew over there. So we're kind of hoping that the people who build on Ethereum that were involved in that dream and maybe didn't get too distracted from it, of this idea of making crypto available to everyone, just come over and help and build and hack on this hackathon and show us what you got, because I think the cross-pollination between these two ecosystems is really something that can, in the end, change a huge portion of the world.
Thank you, Jarrell.
Thanks.
Yeah. So next question is for you, Marek. You've been working on Celo for a few years now. How would you describe Celo to a non-blockchain engineer?
Yeah, great question. And so, you know, we say that Celo is a open platform that makes financial tools accessible to anybody with a mobile phone. But what does that really mean? It sounds like a lot of crypto jargon. Really, what it is, you know, it's increasingly becoming the place to do mobile DeFi, to do mobile decentralized finance. And the reason for this is you know, Celo is fully Ethereum compatible, fully EVM compatible. That means that if you've done anything in the Ethereum ecosystem, it's very easy to get started. But on top of what Ethereum provides, Celo provides, I think, 3 really, really interesting and key innovations that Jarrell started touching upon just now as well. And those 3 are the following. Thank you, Judy, for showing this. Celo has this really incredible light client. if you want to build a mobile experience that connects with the decentralized, with the P2P network, you need to have a way for that mobile device to efficiently and quickly verify the state of the actual chain. And many networks have like clients. Bitcoin and Ethereum have like clients, but they're quite expensive for mobile devices today. I think on Ethereum, you have to download gigabytes of data. And clearly, this is not conducive to a great user experience. And so almost nobody really is using the Ethereum-like client or even the Bitcoin-like client for their consumer applications. And so we worked really, really hard to create a like client that is right now around 17,000 times lighter than the Ethereum-like client. And soon after the next hard fork, which is coming in April, it's going to be 1.7 million times lighter through some really exciting and new ZK snark cryptography magic. And so this means that if you're building a decentralized application, a DApp, it will be capital D DApp. It will be truly decentralized. You won't have to connect through a centralized backend. So that's number one. Number two, if you're doing anything finance, whether it's decentralized or not, then clearly you need some stable value that you want to be operating on. And so Celo has a built-in platform that allows the broader Celo community to create multiple stablecoin assets that are all backed by the same crypto asset over-collateralized reserve. And stablecoins now are not that new. They do exist on other platforms. I think the one thing that's really exciting about the stablecoins on Celo is that even though they're implemented as tokens, so they're implemented in smart contracts running on top of the platform, they can still be used to pay for transaction fees. And this is a complete first. On other platforms, you typically need to pay for transaction fees with another currency. Sometimes it's deflationary currency that changes value all the time. And that leads to a very poor user experience for many end users. And so on Celo, you can actually pay for these transaction fees with tokens. So that leads to a better DeFi experience if you're using something like Celo Dollars, which exists on the platform, or Celo Euros, which is going to launch soon. But it also means that if you're looking to launch your own token on the platform, then through on-chain governance, you can apply to have your token be whitelisted for use as a gas currency itself, which means that you can actually create amazing experiences with your own tokens for your end users as well. And so that's really exciting. And then finally, the piece that Jarrell just mentioned on this kind of phone number PKI. If you think about it, one of the easiest ways to bootstrap a network is to piggyback on an existing network. And this idea of you having to convince all your friends that they should store somewhere, maybe on their phone, a public key derived address that you've created for your account, so that they can transact with you, that is feasible, as we've seen with Bitcoin and Ethereum, but it does take a lot of effort. And so we wanted to make it much easier for people to bootstrap networks. And to do that, we wanted to tap into what we believe is the biggest social network in the world, which is kind of the amalgamation of everyone's contact lists on everyone's mobile device. I think there's 6 billion smartphones in the world, 8 billion phones total. With all those contact lists, that's a massive social network that is arguably bigger than something like Facebook. And so to tap into that, we needed a way to verify, let's stay on the previous slide still. We needed to verify a phone number in a fully decentralized manner, which is difficult to do, but we worked hard to create a really interesting protocol that allows you to receive multiple text messages from randomly selected participants, in effect allowing you to prove that you have a phone number, and then mapping a kind of private kind of hashed version of that on chain to your either public key or wallet address, which then allows people to find you really easily through their phone number, which means that they can find you through their contact list. And so with kind of these innovations, plus a piece that's on the next slide that allows for a global kind of infrastructure that can scale to a lot of mobile devices connecting with this network. Celo has some really creative things around incentivizing full nodes to service-like clients. The end result is that we can create really compelling mobile experiences that really rival centralized experiences, but that are fully decentralized, fully permissionless. And one such experience is Velora, which we also built in parallel while contributing to the platform. And we can see that on the next slide. Velora is a mobile wallet that looks and feels a lot like Venmo, which is a mobile money solution here in the US. You can send payments to people in your contact list. You can send stable value. You can send that value. You can pay for those transactions with the same asset that you're sending. And you can even send payments to someone before they've created an account, which is something that many centralized products offer, but has been historically quite difficult in the decentralized space. And so, yeah, that's kind of the broader overview.
Thank you. So next question is for you, Jarrell. What are the key projects that are being worked on Celo, and any previous project that you're particularly proud of?
Yeah, so I think I just recently mentioned Impact Market. I think that's just a really great place to start. Impact Market, obviously, with the UBI system, right, is like it's this dream that a lot of people have had, and like we kind of are moving farther or closer to the ability to really actualize like this global universal basic income system. However, there's a super interesting things that you can do on top of that, utilizing already existent DeFi apps on the Celo ecosystem, like Moolah Market, which is essentially a fork of Aave, and you have OobSwap, which Oob is actually a purple potato in the Philippines, and it was made by some great Celoers who had an affinity for purple potatoes, so they named it OobSwap. And so what you can do with a lot of those things is the same stuff you could do on Ethereum, but with drastically cheaper transactions. And I mean, I'm hoping to see a lot of these types of primitives be created. Maybe it's during the hackathon, but primitives created that actually allow for interests and interest that is being gained in, let's say, pools to be like siphoned off in small portions to support the UBI network that Impact Market is doing. So, I mean, it's really exciting for Celo to create this mobile ecosystem and this mobile-first like DeFi platforms, because it also allows us to kind of create primitives that create a more globally inclusive and more conscious financial flow, financial network, right? So instead of just, you know, those who already have money making money, we can actually create systems that allow those who are looking to create value for themselves and lift themselves up. So and those two groups can work in tandem. Another really great project that's being built on Celo is PayChan, and PayChan is essentially, I mean, this may seem simple when I say it in a sentence, but to think about what really is possible with this. We see PayChan as like the merchant tool. So all you do is take a button essentially that PayChan has of our API and just put it on your merchant website. And so suddenly you can be paid in Celo, you can be paid in CUSD, and you can do all sorts of stuff with that. And then there's also a number of other projects like Eldorado and Dunia Pay who are doing things all in South America and really just working on thank you for sharing those links, Marek. Doing things for both data aggregation and then doing things for microloans. And we have a lot of really interesting pilots. For instance, I mentioned Tonda Clubs earlier, and the Tonda Club is really an idea that's very, very good in Latin America and has caught on for them as well. And the idea in a Tonda Club is that everybody gives their money to one person, and that one person then like a name is pulled from the hat, and then that person loans out that money to person who needed money that was in the hat. But in this system, you can send everyone money, Celo. You can earn interest on that Celo, send everyone back their money, and send that interest to an individual. And you can really take Tonda Clubs to the next level. There's a number of projects. I really encourage you to go to celo.org and look at everything we've got going on. But some of the stuff that I'm hoping to see that can be really impactful from the Ethereum world and brought over to Celo, really, these are some of the foundational tools that you would need to do it. So like OobSwap and Moolah Market. And so I think for that, I would just encourage you to go look and see what doesn't exist and start building. Judy, yeah. Did you want me to?
Yes. So the next question is about we have also the Ethereum DevOps engineers and who's been building on their devs on Ethereum. And if I'm an Ethereum developer, why should I consider building my devs or porting over to Celo platform instead?
Awesome.
Yeah, happy to take that one. It's a great question. I think, in addition to, all of the great features that we just talked about, the fact that Celo makes it really easy to build something that's mobile with really great UX. There's a few other things that people like to look for when they're picking a network. Obviously, gas prices are a big one, especially these days with what they are in Ethereum. Any modern proof of stake network that is highly scalable like Celo probably will tick that box. But I think another thing to look for is really what are the network effects that this platform can provide you. On Ethereum, people frequently talk about kind of the value of all of this composability that's happening on Ethereum. All of these great dApps exist today, and you can compose them together with whatever you're building, and you can create something that is greater than the sum of all of these parts. Luckily, mobile DeFi now is really taking off on Celo. There's stable coins on the platform. We mentioned Celo dollars a second ago, and Celo euros, which is about to launch this current month, towards the end of this month. There are decentralized exchanges. Jarrell mentioned Uniswap, which just launched earlier this week, so it's great timing. And then Mento also exists on the platform. It's been around since last July. That's another decentralized exchange that is really core to the stability mechanism of the platform, and is another great option. Jarrell also mentioned Moolah, which is a lending market on Celo. Lending markets are really important for doing DeFi on platforms, and so it's really awesome to see that not just that the platform exists, but there's now liquidity on it, and people are lending and borrowing assets, and so that's really great to see. Compound, I think, announced their Compound chain testnet yesterday, and in that tweet they mentioned Celo, and so hopefully Compound will also be coming to Celo soon, so there'll be multiple lending markets for folks to pick from and to compose with. Jarrell mentioned that he worked on TBTC previously. We're super excited that TBTC is coming to Celo as well, so there will be Bitcoin on Celo in the near future. The thesis and Keep team has been working hard on that over the last few months. And then, there's Impact Market, which we've heard a lot about as well at this point. And so there's just an incredible amount of things that are on the platform that you can compose with, and that allow you to build kind of next level experiences. So that's number one. I think another important thing is around cash in, cash out, right? If you can't cash in and cash out easily, then it's going to be hard to build compelling experiences that can attract a lot of users. And yes, many assets are on exchanges, but your typical end user isn't going to be comfortable going to, a Coinbase Pro or a Binance to buy some asset in order to participate in some DeFi. And so you need really easy mobile-first cash in and out experiences that connect to whatever the rails are in your local market. And on that front, I think we're just really humbled by all of the options that now exist in the Celo ecosystem. There is Simplex, there is MoonPay, Ramp, Bidali, and Wire, which is also very, very popular, is coming really soon, along with many, many others. I'm not sure if, other than Ethereum and Bitcoin, if there's really any other kind of network that has this many really easy to use cash in and out experiences this early on. And so that's also pretty critical. So yeah, I think those would be my reasons. I'm sure everyone has their own reasons, so definitely feel free to share in the chat. Would love to see them.
Yeah, I also shared on the chat window about the Medium blog post that you wrote up, and also mentions about the scalability, how performing the Celo platform is. So do check it out, and thank you, Marek. And I'm going to put the spotlight back on Jarrell for a second. Jarrell, so now I think the folks are ready to build on it, right?
Yeah.
So what other ideas that you could maybe suggest?
I'll try and keep this brief. I have a lot of things I'd love to see built on Celo. But something I want to touch on is like the TBTC thing, like the Bitcoin coming to Celo. That means that there's a representation, like this Bitcoin, wrapped Bitcoin is now on Celo, and that means we can use it as a store of value while also having really low fees to utilize it with, which, I mean, this isn't going to resonate with everyone, but I've done a lot of work in Lagos, and this is an interesting hack that they would love. One of the best parts of Lagos as a regional government is that there's no regulation on power sharing. And so I know a bunch of devs over there that have been trying to figure out how to create like a reasonable dApp that allows them to like buy some solar panels, or whoever already has solar panels, and share power between each other through a smart contract system. But the issue they had is that everybody in Nigeria loves Bitcoin, and they're very comfortable with Bitcoin. And so they would prefer to have this dApp be based off of the asset of Bitcoin. And so there's actually a lot to be said about the ability to bring Bitcoin as a hard value asset to billions of people, and especially the like 22 million that live in Lagos, that be very interested in having that just on their mobile phone and interacting really quickly with it. There's a lot to be said about everything you see in your normal day, which is part of the reason why I'm really excited about throwing the Make a Mobile Hackathon. Is like, there's not a good reason I've heard from anybody that is to say why Web3 can't run the mobile app space. And if there's an app that you use on a daily basis, there's a chances are it can be changed by Celo and made better. And so, like, for instance, DoorDash, which is something we're really looking into, and like delivery services like that. And really those like gig economy type apps, they can just be ported over now and now be mapped to a person using their cell phone and an address and a public address, instead of the KYC that goes into trying to just make a side hustle work for yourself during, let's say, a pandemic. So those are some cool things. I am really hoping, and I'm going to be honest, I feel like I'm slipping out one of my better ideas here, because I haven't quite figured it out in my head. And I'm like, should I go ahead and build this because I think this will be really successful? But I'm just going to say it. There's no reason why we can't make mobile phone wallpapers NFTs. And if we're already on a mobile phone, there's really nothing stopping us from saying like, yes, yeah, let's just have.
I'll buy one.
Yeah, exactly. So I mean, I would love to see like a mobile. If you're going to spend $1,000 on an iPhone, I guarantee you're going to want to spend a little bit to make sure that your iPhone looks way cooler, or is supporting a cause, or from an artist that you love. And there's no reason you can't do that on Celo. And it's what I believe the only network that's actually feasible. And I've looked into quite a few. So that's some stuff I'm super excited about. Other things that come to mind just from like a regional perspective, I think that there's a lot to be said about the way that we are building like these like I had mentioned earlier, the lossless lotteries. I think that there's a lot to be said. It doesn't have to be just impact market. There could be whole liquidity pools that are set up to just funnel into like the Black Girls Code mobile wallet that they've set up, and like things about like actually creating these like sharing economies that don't only just enrich a small group of people, they enrich an ecosystem of value. And that's what I think is what we're really going for here.
Yeah, one idea I just want to share is, as a parent, I hear from other friends like Girl Scout cookies and Boy Scouts, like, you know, this and that. I mean, you could make it as like a, you know, Girl Scout logo and make it as NFT, and then it's like just to sell it at a cheap price. And, you know, you can sell it to your friends and you can sell it to like your coworkers. You know, it's like Girl Scout cookies goes like that, you know?
Yeah.
So similarly, NFT would go like that if you're
yeah,
taking it from school.
And just to add to that, it is like, I think something to focus on too with what Marek was saying is like, we're seeing ETH become super expensive and super unusable. But I mean, with the light client identity and the way the validators and nodes are set up, I mean, we've stress tested this thing, and it's looking like when we get to that value, if a value was to suddenly spike in Celo, we aren't like leaving behind all the users whose lives it's actually changed and like lifted up. So that's what I'm excited about the most, is no matter what unicorn or anything that throws out there that suddenly gets a ton of traction, like our version of CryptoKitties, if that's mobile NFT wallets, we're not by nature abandoning the group of people that our mission focuses on.
Yeah.
That's cool.
Right. Awesome. Thank you. So I do have a couple of questions that keep coming up, and people ask me about like difference between Celo, which is native access to Celo, and Celo USD, which is Celo dollar. Marek, can you explain a little bit about like a stability protocol and why we have the multiple assets on Celo platform?
Yeah, great question, and you're absolutely right. This does come up a lot. Yeah, so I think Celo dollars and Celo euros, and hopefully soon a ton more of stable coins that are pegged to local and even regional currencies throughout the world. These are the currencies that we foresee being the most useful for mobile DeFi, right? These are the assets that won't change in value and relative to local economies, and the asset that you want to do probably all of your lending and trading and spending and everything. But the network still needs something to be used to operate, and that asset is Celo. So Celo plays a number of different roles on the platform. First and foremost, it's used to secure the network in Celo's proof of stake protocol. So if you want to earn some rewards by helping to secure the network, by voting for validators that you trust and that you think will do a good job in maintaining and managing the network, then you can hold Celo and then put it to work by voting for these validators. Celo is also the asset that you use to participate in governance decisions. So if you are excited about the platform and you want to have a say in the future development of the platform, then, like other modern proof of stake networks, Celo has on-chain governance built into the platform. And every now and then there's a governance decision, and that goes out and gets voted on by all Celo holders. And then finally, Celo is also used in the reserve that backs Celo dollars, Celo euros, and in the future additional Celo stablecoins. So 50% of the reserve is composed of Celo. The rest is composed of things like Bitcoin, ETH, hopefully soon tokenized trees, and other tokenized assets, things that we want to see more of in the world. but we're or the community is targeting having 50% of that reserve be in Celo. And so this means that whenever there's increased demand for the stable coins, the protocol, through this kind of stability mechanism and through that Mento exchange that I mentioned before, has to buy up Celo and put it in the reserve in order to back kind of that increase in Celo dollar supply that needs to be created to match that demand. And so the more people are using the stable coins, the more Celo then gets bought up automatically through this stability mechanism and effectively locked away in the reserve in order to collateralize and back those stable coins. And so that's kind of the reserve kind of use case of the Celo asset. And then finally, if you want to, you can also use Celo to pay for transaction fees. You know, if you're sending Celo around, it makes sense for you to use that to pay for transaction fees. Of course, if you're sending Celo dollars around, you can also use Celo to pay for the transaction fee, but chances are you'd probably prefer to use Celo dollars, which, as we mentioned before, is something that is uniquely possible on our platform. So those are the main use cases of Celo, and again, it's really designed to kind of help operate, secure the Celo network, and then also designed to help the stability mechanism function.
Awesome. I have one last question. And Celo, we are full stack, mobile-first full stack platform. And so unlike other blockchains, Celo simplifies the user onboarding experience using a mobile phone number. So how would you describe Celo in a simple terms to a SIM swap critic? Marek, you want to take that?
Sure, yeah, the SIM swap question. Yes, I think, a lot of people, rightly so, are curious, what happens if their phone number is stolen from them. This is not a hypothetical anymore. It happens quite frequently, sadly, around the world. And the good news is that when we designed the identity protocol, we made sure that this kind of attack wouldn't cause someone to lose any funds. And the way that that's done is the funds themselves are secured by a private key, just like they are on any other blockchain. So just like on Bitcoin and Ethereum, if you want to create kind of a new account, you create a new private public key pair, and then you use your public key to kind of derive your address. All of that works exactly the same on Celo. And so if someone steals your phone number, they don't have access to the private key, so they don't have access to your funds. What we do, though, that is different is we have this phone verification protocol that effectively maps a kind of uniquely salted, hashed version of your phone number to either your public key or to your wallet address. And so what this means is that if someone were to steal your phone number, at most what they could do is create a new wallet and then map your phone number to that new wallet and try to impersonate you going forward. Luckily, if someone were to do that, we can detect it. Anybody sending money to that phone number can see that there's two wallets mapped to that phone number. And we can warn the user who's sending that payment and say, hey, something looks odd here. It looks like there's two wallets tied to this phone number. Which of these do you really want to send to? And then you can go and try to communicate with the person you're trying to pay and figure out the true wallet. And so really, it's practically impossible to both to lose funds if someone were to steal your phone number, and two, to have them successfully impersonate you for future transactions because of these kind of safety mechanisms that we built into the platform and into Velora that already work well today.
Awesome. Wow, we have 15 minutes left for answering live audience's questions. We have one question already posted. Are there any projects on Celo mainnet that have deployed ERC20 token? Jarrell, you want to take that with your angry keyboard typing?
Is that, I think Marek can probably take that one. I was just trying to be excitedly say, ask away.
Yeah, I mean, certainly Mula has MCUSD, mCelo, which are these kind of tokenized representations of Celo and Celo dollars that accrue interest based on the supply and demand of assets in the system. So those are ERC20 tokens. You can send them just like any other ERC20 token on Ethereum. They show up in the block explorer, explorer.celo.org, like an ERC20 token. And so I think that's a good example. I think UbeSwap is, I'm not sure if they've already launched their Ube asset or if it's coming soon, but that's also going to be an ERC20-like token. So there's certainly already a number of these. We've also heard folks launching, I think Impact Market launched their own currency as well. They're experimenting with, and someone else, I believe, launched a fiat-backed asset as well. So there's now a growing amount of these, and many more that we're aware of that are actually in the works right now and are coming. So yeah, I guess the answer is yes.
Sweet. I don't have any more questions. Then maybe we could go through 2 truths and 1 lie. So Marek,
I have some questions. I have a question.
You do?
I would love, yeah. What is, like, Marek, what is your, I guess, project from Ethereum or from any decentralized ecosystem or from the Web 2 world that you would love to see, like, Celoized, made mobile?
Celoized.
Yeah, that's a great question. You know, I think it's clear that synthetic assets are getting people quite excited. You know, obviously there's work that's being done on creating algorithmic stablecoins like Celo dollars, but you know, also like many other stablecoins on other platforms. But now increasingly people experimenting with creating a synthetic asset that maps something that is slightly less stable, like maybe gold or some other commodity. And I think synthetics is one protocol on Ethereum that does this. And in terms of giving people access to more ways to save on their mobile devices, clearly a protocol that did something like this on Celo, I think could be interesting. So yeah, I think that could be an interesting project for anyone.
It's super relevant to today's world as well. With, I mean, there's going to be this idea of like, how can we replicate Robinhood and the Robinhood audience onto Ethereum? A lot of people are talking about it, but in reality, the thing that Robinhood did was it was a mobile app. So if we want to replicate like this idea of everyone having access to synthetic stocks and stuff like that, or just, you know, any kind of asset exposure, it's probably going to be happening on a mobile interface. So I think that's a super cool point.
Marek, do you have a question for Jarrell?
It's only fair.
Well, in the meantime,
ask, you know, what do you want to see the most? But you kind of already been asked that question.
I mean, yeah. I have other things I want to see happen though. For me personally, I was really excited by this team that joined our hackathon East Denver a couple weeks ago. and they had created what's called last mile. And essentially with internet restricted devices, they were able to create systems that where people could send value using just text messages from their mobile phones that weren't smartphones. And so they were piggybacking off of these broadband, or these mobile carrier waves, and had essentially created the ability to send in value and transactions with text messages. So I think that's super valuable, and I'd love to see pilots that are utilizing that with these like throwaway phones for refugee migrations. And I think it would be super awesome to see like a person has triangulated in a sense, like sent a text from these cell towers, and like you can set up checkpoints. I've worked with my friend Marcus Fix in the past of like understanding more about how the UN runs those types of refugee like checkpoint projects. And the cell phone towers, if you like, now that Last Mile built that, realistically, that is actually a super cool tool for helping people who are migrating between countries, because they don't actually have internet even on smartphones. So text messaging is incredible value. So if they would pass these checkpoints, essentially they would automatically get texted more CUSD. And that's something that's super cool.
You know, we have one more question. So before going on to the poll result, Luke asks, it seems that often Celo is overlooked despite the fact that it is more mission and impact focused than many other DeFi protocols. How does the team and founders manage this divergence?
Yeah, it's a great question. And it's interesting because if you look at the number of transactions, for example, on the platform, Celo launched at a similar time to both Near and Polkadot. But, last time I checked, there was more transactions on Celo than both Polkadot and Near combined. And so I'm really wondering if, that statement that you started with is really true. There is a lot of development happening on the platform, and clearly it's already translating into a lot of usage, which has been really, really exciting to see. But certainly there's more work to be done, and I think not just kind of the cLabs founders, but the broader Celo community has been working hard to educate folks and to get the message out. And so it's actually a great question, and I can turn it back on you and say, how can we work together to continue to kind of reach more people?
Yep, true that. This is community effort. So, dun 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 dun. Let's go with you, Marek. Which one is a lie?
Okay, let's see what
Most folks voted you graduated at the top of your class. They don't believe you are smart.
Yeah, so it looks like most people voted for the airplane.
Oh yeah,
right?
you jumped out of the airplane.
Yeah, which was true. I have only once, never again, gone skydiving, and it was absolutely insane. So the lie was that I graduated at the top of my class. I figured I could throw in something that really had to think less of me in order to vote that was a lie. For those who did vote for that, kudos to you. I never graduated from MIT. In my 5th and final year of my PhD, I decided that I wanted to try my hand at a startup. And so I think much to the dissatisfaction of my academic advisor, I technically went on leave to start my first startup. But that company did well.
Your ears. Okay, stay in your class.
Yeah. I don't recommend following my path, at least not when I'm presenting at MIT. Yeah, the company did well, and so I never came back from my leave. Maybe one day, I think could be nice one day. I'm all but defended. I just have to really staple a few papers together and go and give a thesis defense. So could be fun one day. And then the other truth, I climbed when I was in Bolivia. There's a mountain there that is easier than most 6,000 meter peaks to climb, called Huayna Potosi. It's still pretty intense. You still have to wake up at 11:30 p.m. For the final day. It's a multi-day climb, but for the final day, you wake up at 11:30 p.m. and start hiking or technically climbing on a glacier in the middle of the night, so that you can reach the peak at sunrise. So that was a very exhausting day, and good resilience building for starting startups.
Well, top that, Jarrell.
I did. Really good one. The Olympic one looks.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So
yeah,
which one is the lie, Jarrell?
The lie is, and I want you to know that I was very annoyed that this happened. The lie is the Mars One thing, and I see that you all voted for that, so you don't think I'm cool enough to go to Mars. But that's not like entirely a lie. I did apply, and from Westminster, myself and my friend Cody applied, and they accepted Cody. And so I was like, wait a second. It came down to it. Mars One is probably not going to go anytime soon, but it's interesting that because the special skills they were looking for, I had a lot of like other skills, but Cody had one that was very specific, and it was beekeeping, and he was a very accomplished beekeeper. And so Mars One like took him as an applicant and accepted him. And I was like, where are they going to find bees on Mars, you know? So they specified that. So it was really cool, but just a fun thing to apply for. The two truths would be, yeah, I came straight from Ethiopia to an emu farm in Northern California. And it actually led to me being homeschooled until high school, because I'm really good with animals, and I was really like a large portion of the person running this farm with my brother. And so that's we raised it. Just before anyone asked, we raised them for meat, and we didn't buy like red meat from the store, and we just like about 14 to 15 emus every year from like these giant eggs that we would incubate, and so then we just would eat them throughout the year and give them to friends and stuff. So it was pretty interesting. If anyone wonders, it tastes exactly like beef, and there's just no fat, because it's the only bird in the world with red meat. So cool.
I have some questions. You almost went to the Winter Olympics for Ethiopia.
I did almost go to the Winter Olympics for Ethiopia. Yeah. I actually got this before anyone finds it, and then I have to deal with it popping up on Twitter later. There's actually a Reuters article about it, because the town I went to in California was really close to Lake Tahoe and skiing. And since I was homeschooled, I would like go up there a lot. And then I got to high school and I realized like I was actually pretty good at skiing, and I started doing competition like races and stuff. And for a lot of people, they were like, there's an African kid that skis. And I saw that Robel Teklemarian in one of the Olympics, it was when I was in high school, I saw that he had gone to the Winter Olympics for the first time for Ethiopia for cross country skiing. And I was like, okay, that's really cool. But then I was like, there's no one else, huh? And so I got to college and I was leaving. I was like kind of exiting college, and I got in touch with Robel via like Facebook or something. And I reached out to him, and yeah, I just was like, if this is something that you could do, is there any way that I could do it as well? And it came down to like, I really could do it. I just would have needed to gone and like lived in Ethiopia for a few months. And at the time it wasn't working out. So I was just training in Salt Lake City. And then I got into the startup world, and it seemed like if I really wanted to compete at the Winter Olympics, I was going to need to basically stop doing any startup stuff and just focus on that. But yeah, I've skied against Robel, and I'm just going to publicly say, I'm sure he'll never see this live stream, but I'm a better skier than Robel. So I have no problem saying that. And I would love for him to come over here and say that I'm wrong. So yeah.
Okay. You know, you could have met me in Korea if you went Korea. Seriously.
Yeah, I could have.
Like, Westminster College and everything. Come
Yeah,
on.
it would have been fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, I actually ended up taking that passion and helping my friend who was from Uganda make a documentary about how he was trying to go to the Olympics for Uganda for snowboarding. He never made it, but the documentary did well and Red Bull bought it. So I think he came out on top.
Well, folks, time is up. We start on schedule and we finish on schedule. So thank you for joining today. And thank you, Marek and Jarrell, for joining and explain about Celo. I had a great fun. I hope you folks all had a great fun as well.
Yeah. Great. Thank you for everything, Judy. This has been awesome.
Oh, awesome. Thank you, everyone. Goodbye.
Bye.
Have a good one.